How do you keep going when the one thing that kept you alive is suddenly gone? Ryan had faced countless battles, but none were as brutal as the loss of Ace, his loyal K9 partner. The one who had fought beside him through the worst of times, always ready to sacrifice for him. Now, with Ace gone, Ryan was left in a silence so heavy it felt like the weight of the world. How could he survive this loss? But in that crushing grief, he realized something. Ace's love and loyalty would always be with him, guiding him through the pain. The sky was clear and bright on a summer morning at the VA hospital in Greenfield. Jack Thompson stepped out of his police car, his military uniform sticking to his body from the scorching heat. Beneath the harsh sunlight, the hospital parking lot was empty, the only sounds being the hum of insects and the steady footsteps of Jack and his K9 partner Lulu, walking silently beside him. Jack was a man of few words, always keeping a certain distance from others. After leaving the military, he didn't choose a peaceful life. Instead, he joined the police force, wanting to continue serving the community, to protect those who needed it. For the past 3 years, Lulu, a smart and loyal German shepherd, had been his only companion. She wasn't just a partner, but a crucial part of his work. Together they had faced countless challenges, from intense training sessions to real-life missions that required perfect coordination. With her sleek black and tan coat, bright, sharp eyes, Lulu had proven to be an exceptional K9. Always alert, always focused, her intelligence was a hallmark of the breed. Jack had learned so much from her, not just as a reliable friend, but as an outstanding team member. The VA hospital was vast, a place where veterans came to heal both their physical and mental wounds. Jack's footsteps echoed steadily across the cold stone of the parking lot, but the air around them remained heavy with heat. Old cars, empty benches, all creating a quiet, sorrowful space. Every vehicle here carried the story of a soldier who had fought in brutal wars, now seeking solace in a place to heal. Lulu walked calmly beside Jack, every step of hers measured, full of alertness. Without needing words, Jack felt the bond between them. Lulu had been by his side through countless missions and challenges. In her eyes, Jack always found complete trust, and sometimes that was all he needed, an unspoken connection, built on trust, loyalty, and unconditional friendship. The two made their way toward the main part of the hospital. Everything seemed quiet, just the sound of cars passing by outside and a soft breeze brushing through. Today felt like another ordinary day in their work, but there was an odd feeling in the air, as if something was waiting for them ahead. As they continued along the row of parked cars, Jack began to sense that the quiet around them wasn't quite right. The cars all seemed the same, nothing out of the ordinary. But when they reached an old Ford F-150 parked near the end of the lot, Lulu suddenly stopped. Jack bent down slightly, following Lulu's gaze. The old Ford F-150 didn't seem like anything out of the ordinary. Still, Lulu stood still, not the least bit curious as she usually was when checking out parked cars. Her ears were fully alert, pointing toward the truck, her body straight as a line, a clear sign that something had caught her attention, something beyond the ordinary. Jack knew that when Lulu behaved like this, there was definitely something his eyes couldn't see. He tried to command her, his voice even. "Lulu, let's go." But she didn't move. The K9 stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the truck as if she could see right through it. Jack called out again, firmer this time, "Lulu, go!" But still no response. The silence around them was thick, broken only by the distant hum of engines. Jack could feel the tension in the air. It was different from their usual checks. There was something strange here, something Jack couldn't explain with logic alone. Lulu remained unmoving, her focus unwavering. Jack started to feel a slight pang of unease creep into his chest. Sometimes, feelings like this were signs of something dangerous ahead. He paused, studying the old truck more carefully. Aside from the thick layer of dust, nothing seemed unusual, but Lulu's behavior couldn't be ignored. He tugged on Lulu's leash, but she stood firm, refusing to budge. The tension in Jack's chest deepened. He knew Lulu well enough to trust her instincts, and her alertness meant something wasn't right with this vehicle. Something was hiding here. With an instinct he couldn't quite explain, Jack made the decision to act. He couldn't ignore Lulu's strong reaction, a clear indication that there was something he hadn't noticed yet. He carefully moved toward the truck, keeping an eye on Lulu's every move. Slowly, he pulled on the door handle, then leaned in to peek through the window. Inside, nothing seemed out of place. Yet, Jack's unease didn't fade. Lulu still sat upright, eyes never leaving the truck, as if there was something she sensed that he couldn't see. "Lulu," Jack whispered, gently stroking her head. But Lulu didn't move, her posture unchanging, adding to Jack's growing concern. There was an uneasiness, a feeling he couldn't explain, like danger was lurking just out of sight. Jack decided to inspect the truck more thoroughly, unable to shake the nagging feeling Lulu had planted in him. He crouched down and started checking the exterior of the vehicle. The windows were fogged with dust, and the truck had scratches and stains from years of use. Nothing stood out except its old, weathered appearance. But the strange feeling still lingered. Jack opened the door slowly, trying not to make a sound. His hands were careful as he pulled the door open and stepped inside, scanning the interior. At first glance, the truck's cabin was nothing more than a few normal items: an old military backpack, an aluminum water bottle, and some miscellaneous belongings. Nothing suspicious, but something in Jack's gut told him there was something hidden inside this truck. The light from the flashlight illuminated the area beneath the passenger seat. And then, the beam reflected off something unusual. It wasn't a large object, but it was enough to catch Jack's attention. He moved in closer, the light shining brighter, and there, hidden beneath the seat, was a small box. With a mix of curiosity and caution, Jack pulled the box out. It was old, its surface worn down by time. The box was sealed shut, with no markings to suggest anything special inside, but Jack could feel a strange tension emanating from it. Slowly, he opened the lid, and what he found inside made his heart skip a beat. The box contained a few items, neatly arranged, yet each one carried a weight, as if they held an entire story within them. A folded American flag, faded with age, but still holding a sense of dignity and reverence. Next to the flag were a pair of worn combat gloves, their fabric frayed and stained, the unmistakable marks of battles they had witnessed. These gloves seemed to still carry the weight of painful moments, where soldiers placed their trust not only in each other, but in their canine partners as well. There were also several old photographs in the box, perhaps of the truck's owner and his canine companion. The photos were blurred, but Jack could still make out the image of a canine dog with a soldier. The dog looked very much like Lulu, a German shepherd. These faded photos held a deep, sorrowful story of sacrifice and loyalty. Jack suddenly realized that this wasn't just some old truck. It might have belonged to a veteran who had lost his canine companion, a bond that could never be broken, filled with grief and longing. As Jack held the items in his hands, a wave of emotion swept over him. These weren't just inanimate objects. They were pieces of a story about sacrifice and friendship between humans and their canine partners. He felt his throat tighten, and a part of him wanted to know more about the soldier behind these belongings, the story hidden in them. Jack realized, how do you keep going when the one thing that kept you alive is suddenly gone? Ryan had faced countless battles, but none were as brutal as the loss of Ace, his loyal K9 partner. The one who had fought beside him through the worst of times, always ready to sacrifice for him. Now, with Ace gone, Ryan was left in a silence so heavy it felt like the weight of the world. How could he survive this loss? But in that crushing grief, he realized something. Ace's love and loyalty would always be with him, guiding him through the pain. The sky was clear and bright on a summer morning at the VA hospital in Greenfield. Jack Thompson stepped out of his police car, his military uniform sticking to his body from the scorching heat. Beneath the harsh sunlight, the hospital parking lot was empty, the only sounds being the hum of insects and the steady footsteps of Jack and his K9 partner Lulu, walking silently beside him. Jack was a man of few words, always keeping a certain distance from others. After leaving the military, he didn't choose a peaceful life. Instead, he joined the police force, wanting to continue serving the community, to protect those who needed it. For the past 3 years, Lulu, a smart and loyal German shepherd, had been his only companion. She wasn't just a partner, but a crucial part of his work. Together they had faced countless challenges, from intense training sessions to real-life missions that required perfect coordination. With her sleek black and tan coat, bright, sharp eyes, Lulu had proven to be an exceptional K9. Always alert, always focused, her intelligence was a hallmark of the breed. Jack had learned so much from her, not just as a reliable friend, but as an outstanding team member. The VA hospital was vast, a place where veterans came to heal both their physical and mental wounds. Jack's footsteps echoed steadily across the cold stone of the parking lot, but the air around them remained heavy with heat. Old cars, empty benches, all creating a quiet, sorrowful space. Every vehicle here carried the story of a soldier who had fought in brutal wars, now seeking solace in a place to heal. Lulu walked calmly beside Jack, every step of hers measured, full of alertness. Without needing words, Jack felt the bond between them. Lulu had been by his side through countless missions and challenges. In her eyes, Jack always found complete trust, and sometimes that was all he needed, an unspoken connection, built on trust, loyalty, and unconditional friendship. The two made their way toward the main part of the hospital. Everything seemed quiet, just the sound of cars passing by outside and a soft breeze brushing through. Today felt like another ordinary day in their work, but there was an odd feeling in the air, as if something was waiting for them ahead. As they continued along the row of parked cars, Jack began to sense that the quiet around them wasn't quite right. The cars all seemed the same, nothing out of the ordinary. But when they reached an old Ford F-150 parked near the end of the lot, Lulu suddenly stopped. Jack bent down slightly, following Lulu's gaze. The old Ford F-150 didn't seem like anything out of the ordinary. Still, Lulu stood still, not the least bit curious as she usually was when checking out parked cars. Her ears were fully alert, pointing toward the truck, her body straight as a line, a clear sign that something had caught her attention, something beyond the ordinary. Jack knew that when Lulu behaved like this, there was definitely something his eyes couldn't see. He tried to command her, his voice even. "Lulu, let's go." But she didn't move. The K9 stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the truck as if she could see right through it. Jack called out again, firmer this time, "Lulu, go!" But still no response. The silence around them was thick, broken only by the distant hum of engines. Jack could feel the tension in the air. It was different from their usual checks. There was something strange here, something Jack couldn't explain with logic alone. Lulu remained unmoving, her focus unwavering. Jack started to feel a slight pang of unease creep into his chest. Sometimes, feelings like this were signs of something dangerous ahead. He paused, studying the old truck more carefully. Aside from the thick layer of dust, nothing seemed unusual, but Lulu's behavior couldn't be ignored. He tugged on Lulu's leash, but she stood firm, refusing to budge. The tension in Jack's chest deepened. He knew Lulu well enough to trust her instincts, and her alertness meant something wasn't right with this vehicle. Something was hiding here. With an instinct he couldn't quite explain, Jack made the decision to act. He couldn't ignore Lulu's strong reaction, a clear indication that there was something he hadn't noticed yet. He carefully moved toward the truck, keeping an eye on Lulu's every move. Slowly, he pulled on the door handle, then leaned in to peek through the window. Inside, nothing seemed out of place. Yet, Jack's unease didn't fade. Lulu still sat upright, eyes never leaving the truck, as if there was something she sensed that he couldn't see. "Lulu," Jack whispered, gently stroking her head. But Lulu didn't move, her posture unchanging, adding to Jack's growing concern. There was an uneasiness, a feeling he couldn't explain, like danger was lurking just out of sight. Jack decided to inspect the truck more thoroughly, unable to shake the nagging feeling Lulu had planted in him. He crouched down and started checking the exterior of the vehicle. The windows were fogged with dust, and the truck had scratches and stains from years of use. Nothing stood out except its old, weathered appearance. But the strange feeling still lingered. Jack opened the door slowly, trying not to make a sound. His hands were careful as he pulled the door open and stepped inside, scanning the interior. At first glance, the truck's cabin was nothing more than a few normal items: an old military backpack, an aluminum water bottle, and some miscellaneous belongings. Nothing suspicious, but something in Jack's gut told him there was something hidden inside this truck. The light from the flashlight illuminated the area beneath the passenger seat. And then, the beam reflected off something unusual. It wasn't a large object, but it was enough to catch Jack's attention. He moved in closer, the light shining brighter, and there, hidden beneath the seat, was a small box. With a mix of curiosity and caution, Jack pulled the box out. It was old, its surface worn down by time. The box was sealed shut, with no markings to suggest anything special inside, but Jack could feel a strange tension emanating from it. Slowly, he opened the lid, and what he found inside made his heart skip a beat. The box contained a few items, neatly arranged, yet each one carried a weight, as if they held an entire story within them. A folded American flag, faded with age, but still holding a sense of dignity and reverence. Next to the flag were a pair of worn combat gloves, their fabric frayed and stained, the unmistakable marks of battles they had witnessed. These gloves seemed to still carry the weight of painful moments, where soldiers placed their trust not only in each other, but in their canine partners as well. There were also several old photographs in the box, perhaps of the truck's owner and his canine companion. The photos were blurred, but Jack could still make out the image of a canine dog with a soldier. The dog looked very much like Lulu, a German shepherd. These faded photos held a deep, sorrowful story of sacrifice and loyalty. Jack suddenly realized that this wasn't just some old truck. It might have belonged to a veteran who had lost his canine companion. A bond that could never be broken, filled with grief and longing. As Jack held the items in his hands, a wave of emotion swept over him. These weren't just inanimate objects. They were pieces of a story about sacrifice and friendship between humans and their canine partners. He felt his throat tighten, and a part of him wanted to know more about the soldier behind these belongings, the story hidden in them. Jack realized that this truck wasn't just an old vehicle. The items inside this box weren't just relics of a soldier's past. They were living witnesses to the loss they had endured. The feeling that something significant was being overlooked began to consume him, and he knew he had to find out more about the truck and its owner. This wasn't just another routine check. It felt like a story far deeper, one that he needed to understand. To do so, Jack headed back to the VA hospital, the place where he regularly conducted security checks. Each visit to the hospital filled him with a sense of peace, but there was always something heavy in the air. The VA hospital wasn't just a medical facility, it was a sanctuary for veterans, a place where they could seek help for both their physical and emotional scars. It was a place filled with thousands of stories of sacrifice, of those who had endured the horrors of war and carried the invisible wounds with them. The hospital's parking lot hadn't changed much, but today, Jack felt like something was different. Perhaps it was the story of the old truck and the items in the box that had made him reflect more on the sacrifices of soldiers and their K9s. As he entered the main area of the hospital, he spotted a few veterans sitting on benches, talking quietly with each other, their silence speaking volumes. One of the veterans, a man with silver hair and deep, wise eyes, leaned on his cane as he looked up at Jack with a familiar gaze. He smiled gently when he recognized Jack and Lulu, then spoke softly. "Hey there, Jack." "And Lulu, right? Good to see you. You've found your kids, huh?" Jack smiled back and nodded, but his eyes continued to scan the room, absorbing the quiet stories, the memories hanging thick in the air. A few others began to share their own tales, stories of their K9 companions who had stood by their side in battle. "Do you remember Rocky?" another veteran asked, someone Jack knew had served in special forces. "Rocky was an amazing K9. He saved my life in Iraq. I remember it like it was yesterday. After everyone else was gone, it was just me and Rocky left. He dragged me out of the rubble, even though his own leg was badly hurt. I owe him my life." The soldier's story made Jack's throat tighten. Every story he heard was filled with silent sacrifice, the absolute loyalty these K9s had for their handlers. Sometimes soldiers didn't just fight for their country. They fought for those wordless companions who understood them better than anyone, even without speaking. In those stories, Jack saw empathy, unconditional friendship, and the infinite sacrifice between soldiers and their K9s. These men didn't just carry physical wounds, they carried the deep sorrow of the friends they had lost, the loyal dogs who never made it back. These stories, though short-lived, were a vital part of their lives. Jack felt his heart grow heavy. He looked at Lulu, the dog who always stood beside him. What Lulu had been through, the dangers they'd faced together, made him think more about the loyalty of K9s. Lulu wasn't just a dog, she was a constant, a loyal friend who never left his side. As Jack listened to the next stories, his mind kept drifting back to the old truck and the items in the box. Each of those items was a witness to the sacrifice of a soldier and their K9 companion. He couldn't just leave it there. Jack knew he had to learn more about the truck's owner, about the story behind those items. The VA hospital continued its everyday rhythm. But for Jack, today felt different. The stories of sacrifice, of these loyal K9 friends, drove him to keep digging, to uncover the untold secrets. In his heart, a decision had already been made. He would investigate more about the truck, about Ryan Davis, and about Ace, the K9 who had sacrificed so much. But before diving into that, Jack couldn't stop thinking about the stories he'd just heard from the veterans. Every tale of a K9 sacrifice left a deep impression on him, further deepening his respect and sense of responsibility for the work he did. One veteran Jack spoke with, a man named Harry, began to tell him about his own K9 companion, a dog named Max. Max wasn't just a dog, he was the only friend Harry could trust in the most dangerous situations. "Max saved me so many times," Harry's voice caught as he remembered the memories with his dog. "In a battle in Afghanistan, I got trapped in the rubble. Max found me when I couldn't move. He pulled me out with his mouth, even though his own leg was injured." The VA hospital, like Harry, was filled with veterans, each carrying their own story about the K9s who had saved their lives. These dogs weren't just companions, they were true warriors, brave and never abandoning their handlers. "They never back down," another veteran, John, added, his eyes drifting to an old photo of a fallen K9. "They're real soldiers. No matter the danger, they never run. They can't speak, but they understand everything." John's words hit Jack like a jolt. Canines, with their loyalty and intelligence, truly were steadfast companions, not just in work, but in life-and-death battles. It made Jack appreciate Lulu even more, the dog who had never left his side through the toughest missions. Jack looked at Lulu, and in that moment he felt the deep bond between them. Lulu wasn't just a working dog. She was a real friend who had stood by him through countless trials. The stories Jack had heard today about the brave K9s made him feel even more responsible for Lulu, not just in his work, but in life. That sense of responsibility grew stronger as he remembered what had happened to Ace, Ryan Davis's K9. Working with Lulu for the past 3 years, Jack had come to understand the sacrifices K9s made for their soldiers. Every dog had a significant role in the life of their handler. Jack could feel the pain, not just of the veterans, but of the invisible loss every soldier carries. The stories he had heard at the VA weren't just memories of fallen K9s. They were fragments of lives that could never be fully reclaimed. The loss of a loyal companion could never be replaced by anything. As Jack was deep in thought, his mind returned to the old truck he'd found in the parking lot. The truck wasn't just any vehicle. The items in that box weren't just relics of a soldier. They were living witnesses to the sacrifices they had made. The American flag, the worn combat gloves, the faded photos, they all told an untold story about a soldier and his K9 companion. Jack couldn't ignore the feeling stirring inside him. He knew the truck and its contents were likely connected to Ryan Davis, the owner who had lost his K9. Jack felt a deep connection to Ryan's story, a man who had endured such great loss. He knew he had to do something to help. He couldn't just stand by and do nothing. Jack looked at Lulu, the K9 companion who had been by his side all these years. Lulu stood there calmly as usual, but her eyes seemed to convey a message Jack couldn't ignore. Lulu had always been the best friend Jack had ever had. Every time he looked into her eyes, he felt the loyalty, the unconditional love she had for him. Jack knew that if any dog could understand the pain and loss Ryan was feeling, it was Lulu. Jack knew, without a doubt, that once he met Ryan, he would find a way to help him, whether through words or just by having Lulu there. He felt that it wasn't only him who could help, but that Lulu also had a role to play in helping Ryan heal from the unresolved pain. His mind was swirling with thoughts, but one thing was clear. He had to act. Jack decided to dig deeper into Ryan Davis's story, to understand more about Ace, the fallen companion. It wasn't just a matter of duty for him. It was something deeper, the unbreakable bond between a man and his K9 partner. Jack was determined to find Ryan and learn more about his story. He couldn't sit idly by while these stories passed him without taking action. Ryan and Ace's loss wasn't just their own story. It was the story of all the soldiers and K9s who had sacrificed so much. Jack knew that he had to stand up, to bridge the gap between the past and the future, to help Ryan find peace within himself, while also understanding more deeply the sacrifices and unconditional friendships that K9s brought to their handlers. As night fell, Jack felt an eerie stillness in the air. He had made his decision. Tomorrow he would begin his journey, to find Ryan, to find Ace, and to uncover a way to ease the pain both Ryan and he had carried. Jack woke up earlier than usual. His thoughts about the old Ford F-150 truck still lingered in his mind. How could such an ordinary truck hold so many secrets? The items in the small box, the American flag, the worn combat gloves, the faded photos, they were all witnesses to the sacrifice that Ryan Davis, the truck's owner, had endured. Jack knew that finding the owner of this truck was important, and he decided not to waste any more time. He sat down at his desk, opened his laptop, and started researching information about the truck. The registration number, the color, the make, everything was recorded in the system. Within minutes, the details of the Ford F-150 appeared on the screen. The truck belonged to Ryan Davis, a retired Navy SEAL who had served in the military for years and now lived in a suburb of Greenfield. Jack couldn't help but feel a shock upon learning that Ryan was a Special Forces veteran, someone who had fought in some of the toughest battles. Jack continued his research into Ryan Davis and discovered that he had trained and worked alongside Ace, a courageous K9. Ace wasn't just a smart working dog. He had been Ryan's indispensable companion in combat. Together, they had faced countless challenges, and Ace had saved Ryan's life in many dangerous situations. As Jack read through the descriptions of Ace, he felt deeply moved. What Ace had done for Ryan wasn't just a job, it was life-saving action, the sacrifice of a loyal friend without a single word. Jack paused for a moment, thinking about everything Ace had been through. As someone who worked with K9S, Jack understood well the importance of these companions. He and Lulu had faced many challenges together, but not everyone was fortunate enough to have a friend like Ace. The more he uncovered, the more Jack learned that Ryan had been profoundly affected after losing Ace. There weren't many details about Ace's death, but one thing was clear. Ryan hadn't just lost a working partner, he had lost a vital part of himself. In Ryan's life, Ace had been the one and only companion he fully trusted, the friend who never left his side, even in the hardest moments. The more Jack learned about Ryan and Ace, the deeper the connection he felt between them. What Ryan had gone through wasn't something any ordinary person could easily overcome. Jack knew that he had to find Ryan and help him face the pain he had buried for far too long. With this resolve in his heart, Jack decided to meet Ryan. He wanted to uncover the story behind the truck, the items in the box, and, most importantly, he wanted to help Ryan confront his past. Veterans, those who had witnessed and lived through war, often carried invisible scars that no one could truly understand. But Jack, with all that he had experienced alongside Lulu, believed that he could help Ryan find some peace within himself. Jack grabbed his phone and dialed Ryan Davis's number. After a few rings, a deep voice answered on the other end. "Hello, this is Jack Thompson, K9 officer. I'd like to talk to you about your truck." There was a pause, and then Ryan responded. "Do I know you?" "Yes, I saw your truck and wanted to ask about some items inside. Could we meet?" Another silence followed, before Ryan replied, "Okay, I'll meet you." "I'm at home. Come on over." Jack felt his heart race a little, but he stayed calm. This wasn't just another routine call. There was something deeper pulling him closer to Ryan's story. Jack drove to Ryan's address, the surroundings growing quieter the closer he got, as if something strange awaited him ahead. When Jack arrived at Ryan's home, the simplicity of the house struck him. There was nothing flashy or grand, just a small, worn house that felt warm, much like Ryan himself. Jack parked, took a deep breath, and prepared for what was to come. When he knocked on the door, it opened a few seconds later to reveal a middle-aged man with tanned skin and tired eyes. Ryan stood there in simple clothes, a faded t-shirt, worn jeans, and old boots. There was nothing imposing about him, just a quiet wariness in his gaze. "Hello?" Ryan said, his eyes lingering on Jack for a moment longer, as if sizing him up, deciding whether or not he could trust him. "Hello, I'm Jack Thompson," Jack said, his voice steady. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Ryan looked at Jack, tilting his head slightly, as if trying to decide whether or not he recognized him. He didn't respond right away, just stood still for a moment before finally stepping aside and gesturing for Jack to come in. "Come in," Ryan said softly, opening the door wider. Jack stepped inside. The house felt a little cluttered but warm and inviting. Family photos lined the walls, and an old armchair sat near the window. Ryan pointed to a sofa nearby. "Have a seat," Ryan said before sitting down across from him. Jack sat, taking in the quiet simplicity of the room. There wasn't anything particularly special about it, just a peaceful, everyday space. But then, Jack noticed an old photo frame on the table, with a picture of a canine dog. He smiled faintly and looked up at Ryan. "This is Ace, isn't it?" Jack asked, his voice soft. Ryan gazed at the photo for a moment, then nodded. His eyes seemed to cloud over, a wave of emotion rising just beneath the surface. "Yeah," Ryan replied, his voice dropping lower. "Ace was one of my best friends. He wasn't just a dog. He was the only friend I had throughout the years of war." Jack could feel the weight in Ryan's words. He waited patiently, giving Ryan the time he needed to continue. Not pushing, just listening. Ryan took a deep breath before speaking again. "We fought together for 3 years. He was always by my side, in every battle, in every dangerous moment. I remember one time, I was injured and trapped in rubble. Ace was the first to find me. He pulled me out, even though his own leg was hurt. He never left me, even though he knew he might not make it back." Jack didn't say anything, just sat quietly, listening. Ryan went on. "One day, during a bombing in Afghanistan, I was close to Ace. A bomb went off, and he rushed in to shield me. He sacrificed himself so I could live." Ryan's voice caught in his throat as he recalled that moment. Jack could feel his own heart tighten. He could see the pain in Ryan's eyes, the kind of pain soldiers carry when they lose their invaluable companions. "We made it through everything together, but in the end, Ace couldn't survive that blast," Ryan said, his hand clenching into a fist. "Losing Ace, I didn't just lose a friend. I lost a part of my life." Ryan's story left Jack feeling choked up. Each word carried the weight of grief, not just for Ace's sacrifice, but for the struggles Ryan had faced after leaving the military. Jack could feel the deep sadness in Ryan's eyes, a sorrow many veterans carry with them every day, but few ever truly understand. Ryan sat in silence for a moment, as if lost in the memories. Then, he spoke again, his voice quieter this time. "After Ace died, I couldn't find a purpose anymore. When I was in the military, I had one reason to keep going, to protect my teammates and complete the mission. But when I came back, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't find that feeling again. No reason to keep going except to survive." Jack sat still, watching Ryan, understanding that this was the moment Ryan was opening up. This wasn't just about a lost K9. It was about a soldier trying to find a reason to keep living after everything had changed forever. "Do you feel like you've lost a part of yourself?" Jack asked gently, trying not to push Ryan too hard, but wanting him to speak about the difficult emotions buried inside. Ryan nodded, his eyes filled with sorrow. "Yeah, Ace wasn't just a dog. He was the only friend I could trust in every situation. He knew when I was in danger, when I needed help. I couldn't find that in anyone else." Jack could feel the weight of the silence between them. This story wasn't just about a fallen dog. It was about a soldier who had lost an irreplaceable part of his life, a part that only Ace could fill. Jack thought about Lulu, the dog who had always been by his side. While he knew nothing could replace Ace, Lulu's loyalty and unconditional friendship made him understand, on a deeper level, what Ryan was feeling. "Do you think keeping all the memories of Ace helps you hold on to what's important?" Jack asked, hoping to help Ryan realize that sometimes keeping painful memories locked inside only makes the burden heavier. Ryan sighed and looked down at his hands. I don't know. The memories of Ace are always there. Every time I close my eyes, I can see him clearly. But I always feel like I'm carrying a weight I can't put down. I've never talked about Ace with anyone. I don't want people to see me as weak. Jack spoke softly, his words full of understanding. I get it. But keeping that pain inside only makes it grow, and eventually it'll take over your life. There was a pause, and Jack added gently, You can share it. No one will judge you. That's what Ace would want, right? Ryan looked at Jack, as if searching for some truth in his words. After a long moment, he spoke. I think you're right. I need to talk about it. I need to let it out, instead of keeping it all bottled up. His voice was softer now, more tender. Jack nodded, but he knew this was only the beginning. So, are you ready to face it? Jack asked, his voice encouraging but sincere. Ryan was silent for a moment, his gaze drifting to the old pictures on the table. After what seemed like forever, he answered, I think I'm ready. Maybe not right now, but I'll try. I think it's time I faced this pain. Jack gave him a small, gentle smile. You don't have to do this alone. Lulu and I will be here. Ryan looked at Jack, his eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, Jack. I'll try. It's been so long since I've lived in the darkness of my own mind. You're not alone, Ryan, Jack said, his voice calm. We all have our warrior companions, and sometimes our canine friends don't just help us in war, they help us find ourselves. Jack's words lingered in the air, like an unspoken promise, a bond forming between the two men, two companions. Ryan took a deep breath, a soft sigh of relief escaping him, as though a part of him had finally loosened. Thank you, Jack, Ryan said, his voice much softer now. Thank you for helping me realize that I need to change. Jack smiled, feeling a warm sense of peace in his chest. He knew that today, a small step had been taken. The next step, Ryan would have to face the memories deep within himself, the memories of Ace, the loyal companion who had sacrificed everything. But the first step had been made. Ryan had opened up. After their conversation, Ryan decided to join the therapy group at the VA hospital. The sessions with the therapists wouldn't be easy, but Jack knew it was the only way for Ryan to begin healing. Soldiers often didn't want to face the invisible scars they carried, but Ryan was ready to start that journey. With Lulu by his side, Jack took Ryan to the therapy room. As they entered, the atmosphere in the room was filled with stillness and peace, a sharp contrast to the intense training Ryan had gone through. Other veterans were already seated, each with their own story to share, but no one was in a rush. This was a space for them to release their unspoken pain. Hello, everyone, Ryan said in a low voice, trying to mask his nervousness. I'm Ryan. This is my first time in this group. The others smiled and nodded in welcome. Jack stood outside, giving Ryan space. Lulu sat beside him, her eyes bright with empathy. Jack knew that even without saying a word, Lulu's presence was the greatest emotional support for Ryan. The therapy session began, and Ryan slowly opened up more. He shared about his days in Afghanistan, the battles he and Ace had fought together, and the unforgettable moments when Ace had saved his life. But when he started speaking about Ace's death, his voice caught. Losing Ace wasn't easy, Ryan began, his hands tightening into fists. In those final days, we fought side by side like we always did. But in that bombing, Ace was the one between me and the bomb. He protected me and he didn't make it. I can't forgive myself for letting him sacrifice. Every word Ryan spoke felt like a blade cutting into his soul. The memories of Ace weren't sweet ones. They were filled with pain. Silent tears fell, but Ryan tried to hold them back. He didn't want to appear weak in front of the others, but Jack knew that this was a crucial step in Ryan's healing journey. Ryan looked down at his hands, his eyes clouding over. "He was the only friend I had." His voice cracked, barely above a whisper. "We didn't have anyone else. After Ace died, I lost a part of myself." Jack stood outside the room, listening to Ryan's words through the glass. He could feel the pain and loss Ryan was going through. The memories of Ace, though painful, were necessary for Ryan's healing. Jack knew the next step for Ryan was to face those memories. No more running away. Inside the therapy room, one of the specialists, Dr. Linda, spoke gently. "Ryan, what you've shared is a big step. Facing the pain is part of the healing process. Ace was a great friend to you, and you were a great friend to him. But to move forward, you'll need to learn to live with those memories." Ryan sat in silence, not answering right away. His eyes remained fixed on his hands, as though searching for an answer. It was a painful confrontation with the past, but he knew that if he didn't face it, he wouldn't be able to move forward. "You don't have to do this alone," Jack said softly through the glass, then entered the room. "Lulu and I will be here." Ryan turned to Jack, his eyes full of gratitude but also tinged with worry. "I don't know if I can do this, but I'll try. I can't keep running." Jack smiled and stepped closer, resting a hand gently on Ryan's shoulder. "Starting is enough. We'll get through it together." Ryan took a deep breath, his eyes meeting Jack's, and then drifting to Lulu before returning to the therapy group. Part of him still hesitated, but the pain had lasted far too long. He knew now was the time to face the truth, not just to heal for himself, but to heal the memories that had haunted him for years. The others in the group had all faced their own losses. They were soldiers, veterans, and they understood the pain Ryan was carrying. Dr. Linda spoke again, her voice soft and inviting. "Ryan, you've done a great job just by being here. Now it's time to share your story, if you're ready." Ryan looked around the room at the old soldiers and their companions. They were all looking at him with eyes full of empathy. No one judged him, only understanding and open ears. He felt a part of him was freed when he realized he didn't have to face this pain alone. I don't know where to start," Ryan said, his voice faltering. "I thought I would never be able to talk about Ace, but today, I feel like I have to. I can't keep it inside anymore." A few seconds of silence passed. Ryan looked down at his hands, his fingers tightening, as if trying to find some anchor within himself. Then, slowly, he began to speak, his words coming one by one. "Ace was a K9 I trained," Ryan said, his voice thick with emotion. "He was unlike any other dog. He was the only companion I had. We fought together, protected each other through countless battles. Ace wasn't just a dog. He was a warrior, the friend I trusted most. I remember the first time I met him, his eyes locked on mine, full of determination, and I knew right away that I could trust him." Ryan paused for a moment, his gaze distant, as though he was reliving the days he fought alongside Ace. His voice faltered as he continued, growing more choked with emotion. "But then one day, we were in that bombing. I got trapped, and Ace was the one who saved me." He didn't hesitate. "When the bomb went off, I saw him charge towards me, like he knew it would be the last time he did that. He sacrificed himself to save me, and I can't forgive myself for not protecting him." Ryan's eyes began to cloud, his voice strained. "I don't know what to do with this feeling. I thought I had to keep living with it, but it only gets heavier. Losing Ace, it feels like I lost a part of myself." The room fell silent as Ryan spoke, but everyone in the therapy group could feel the raw pain in his words. This was the first time he had opened up about Ace's sacrifice, the first time he admitted that he couldn't carry this pain on his own. Dr. Linda's gentle voice broke the silence. "Thank you, Ryan. You've shared something very important. Facing the pain and sharing it is the first step towards healing. You are not alone, and we will walk with you. Jack stood outside, quietly observing. He knew today was a significant day for Ryan. What he shared wasn't just the story of a fallen K9, but an acknowledgement of the invisible wounds he had carried for so long. Ryan wasn't just freeing himself from the pain of the past. He was opening up an opportunity to heal those wounds. Ryan lifted his head, his eyes a little brighter now, as if a part of him had been freed. "Thank you, everyone," he said, his voice soft but filled with gratitude. "I know I need to keep going, and I will try, but I can't do it alone. Thank you for helping me realize that I'm not facing this alone." Jack smiled, his eyes full of encouragement. He knew a significant step had been taken. Ryan had opened up, confronted the painful memories of Ace, and no longer kept his emotions hidden. For Jack, this wasn't just an important moment for Ryan, but a sign that he was beginning a new journey, a journey of healing and finding peace within himself. Ryan sat quietly for a moment, his eyes gazing out the window where the sunlight poured into the room. In the stillness, he felt a strange relief, one he hadn't been able to find in years. Jack's words, the support from the therapy group, and especially confronting Ace's sacrifice, had marked a turning point in his journey. "I feel a lot lighter," Ryan sighed, but this time his voice wasn't as heavy as before. "For years, I kept it all inside, didn't want anyone to see me as weak. But today, I realize I can't keep going like this anymore," Ryan said, his voice soft but steady. "I have to learn to live with those memories, instead of trying to run from them." Jack looked at Ryan, nodding with an encouraging look, but not saying anything. He knew Ryan was still wrestling with his thoughts, but at least now he had dared to face the memories he'd buried for so long. "You can start again," Jack said, his voice firm but gentle. "Facing the pain is part of the healing process, and you don't have to do this alone." Ryan bit his lip, his eyes brightening as if something important had clicked inside him. He didn't speak, only nodded slightly, then continued to gaze ahead, where the sky outside the window had begun to turn orange as the sunset settled in. A quiet pause passed between them. Then Ryan spoke, his voice full of contemplation. "I think I'm ready. I don't want to carry this pain with me for the rest of my life. Ace sacrificed for me. I can't let it become a burden in my life." He paused for a moment, his eyes dropping to his hands. "He's a part of me, and I have to live with that memory." Jack sat across from Ryan, a deep respect in his gaze. "You don't need to feel guilty for loving a friend like Ace. Not everyone gets to have a friend as loyal as that. We can learn to live with the memories without letting them control us." Ryan smiled faintly, but his eyes remained tinged with sadness. "Thank you, Jack. Thank you for always being here. I don't know where I'd be without your help. Maybe now I'll try again, face what's behind me. I won't hide it anymore. Ace isn't something I can just throw away. He's always here, in my heart." Jack sat silently, watching Ryan. It wasn't a quick word of encouragement, but the quiet presence of a companion who understood that a big step had been taken. Ryan had made his decision. He could no longer hide, and that was the strongest choice he had ever made. "The first step is done," Jack said softly, "and the next step is moving forward with those memories. Ace will always be with you, but now you'll live without it tormenting you. That's how we honor those friends who sacrificed for us." Ryan looked at Jack, then smiled gently, this time with a real smile. "Then, I'll live with Ace's memory. Thank you for helping me see all of this." A sense of relief spread through Ryan, and with every word he shared, he realized he no longer had to carry that pain alone. The next step was walking on a healthier path, the path where he would find peace in his heart, with Ace's memories beside him. And Jack, his companion, had helped him understand that not all wounds had to be hidden. Jack stood up, extending his hand toward Ryan, not to comfort or protect, but to walk beside him, as a true friend. "Let's walk this road together, Ryan," Jack said, his gaze filled with determination. "We'll keep moving forward, together." Ryan didn't say anything, but he gently took Jack's hand, feeling the warmth and steadiness his companion offered. He nodded softly, as if silently saying he was ready to continue, no longer carrying everything alone. As they sat down on the chairs opposite each other, the air around them was still. But this time, there was no tension or exhaustion. Ryan let out a deep sigh, his shoulders relaxing as he began to speak, his voice slow and filled with emotion. "I've never told anyone about Ace, except for myself," Ryan began, his voice heavy. "But today I feel like I need to say it. Ace wasn't just any dog. He was a warrior. He was my only companion through the years of war. No one understood me like Ace did." Jack remained silent, listening intently to every word Ryan spoke. He could feel the pain in Ryan's voice, as if he was struggling to keep buried emotions from spilling over. Ryan continued, his eyes seemingly lost in the past, where Ace still existed in every memory. "The first time I met Ace was when I was assigned to train him," Ryan recalled, his hands clenching as if trying to hold on to every detail of the memory. "When Ace and I went into our first battle, he was just a puppy, but he showed me courage like no other. People thought of dogs as tools, but Ace proved he was a true warrior." Ryan took a deep breath, his voice catching for a moment, but he pushed forward, continuing the story. "There was one time we were ambushed in a minefield. I got trapped in some rubble, unable to move. Ace didn't hesitate. He rushed in, just hearing me call his name. He didn't care about the mines, the danger around us. He rushed in and pulled me out, even though he was hurt, too." Ryan paused for a moment, his eyes distant, as if reliving that moment. Jack could see the pain in Ryan's words, the kind of grief that could never be fully understood unless you had experienced it yourself. Ryan continued, but his voice was now filled with emotion, as though the memories were suffocating him. "Ace didn't save me just once," Ryan said, his voice shaking. "He saved my life countless times. But when that bomb went off, I couldn't save him. I was only a few meters away from Ace. He looked at me one last time, then ran toward me, putting himself between me and the bomb. He died instantly. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't save him. And since then, I've thought that if it weren't for me, Ace would still be alive." Ryan's voice broke completely, and Jack could see the tears beginning to fall on Ryan's face. Jack felt the agony deep within Ryan's heart. It wasn't just the sorrow for Ace's sacrifice, but the profound sadness of being unable to protect the loyal friend who had saved him. "Ace was the only friend I had," Ryan choked out. "He was everything. He stood by me through so many battles, through so many hardships. Losing Ace, I lost a part of myself." Jack sat quietly, not saying anything. He understood that Ryan's words weren't just about a dog who sacrificed his life. They were a confession of the pain Ryan had carried deep within. The sacrifice of Ace wasn't just the loss of a dog, it was the loss of an irreplaceable part of Ryan himself. Ryan looked up at Jack, and for the first time in many years, he didn't feel ashamed of his pain. He no longer had to hide his feelings or feel guilty for loving Ace too much. "Thank you, Jack," Ryan said, his voice softer now, yet still filled with emotion. "Thank you for helping me see everything clearly, for helping me share my story." Jack sat quietly, listening to every word. He could tell that Ryan's thanks weren't just words of gratitude, but a crucial first step in the healing journey he was beginning. Sharing the story of Ace had lightened Ryan's heart, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Yet Jack understood that the road ahead was still long. Confronting pain was never easy, but Ryan had opened up. and that was the most important thing. "You did really well, Ryan," Jack said, his voice gentle. "Healing doesn't come from forgetting the pain, but from facing it. Sometimes confronting and accepting the losses is the only way to move forward." Ryan nodded, his eyes still wet, but there seemed to be a profound sense of relief beginning to fill his heart. The memories of Ace, though still there, no longer haunted him the way they once did. Speaking up and being heard had given him a freedom he hadn't known before. The guilt and fear of weakness were gradually fading away. "Thank you," Ryan continued. "I never thought sharing my story would help me like this. I thought that if I spoke about it, it would only hurt more. But strangely, I feel much lighter now." Jack smiled, meeting Ryan's gaze. "That's because you didn't let the pain control you anymore. You faced it, accepted it, and now it's no longer weighing on your heart." Ryan sat in silence for a moment, as if he had just stepped out of a long nightmare. He looked at his hands, then out the window, where the fading sunlight illuminated the clouds, signaling that peace was slowly returning. "Before I came here, I always felt like I was living in the past," Ryan said softly, as if speaking to himself. "But now I feel like I can live again, like a normal person. Every day I'll remember Ace, but I don't feel trapped by the past anymore." Jack looked at Ryan with a warm, encouraging gaze. "That's the first step, Ryan. You can't change the past, but you can choose to face it and live with it peacefully. Ace will always be in your heart, but you have to learn to live with those memories without letting them control your present." Ryan turned back to Jack, his eyes filled with appreciation and newfound resolve. "Thank you, Jack. I know there's still a lot to learn, but I'll start from here. I'll face the past and I'll keep moving forward." Jack smiled and stood up. "The important thing is that you've decided to move forward, Ryan. You won't have to do it alone anymore." As Ryan looked back at his memories of Ace, he no longer felt guilt or regret. Instead, he felt a deep sense of appreciation for the companion who had always stood by his side. Ace was gone, but the friendship and loyalty of that dog would forever remain in Ryan's heart and mind. Now, Ryan understood that the past wasn't something he needed to bury. It was an inseparable part of his life. He could carry it in his heart without suffering the pain. He had realized that in order to heal, he had to face the pain, accept the loss, and learn to live with those memories. He couldn't keep running from them. He needed to step out of the shadows of the past to move into the future. And to do that, he knew he had to accept help from those around him. "You've done really well, Ryan," Jack said, his voice gentle yet filled with encouragement. "But the next step is the most important. You don't have to do this alone. If you need us, we'll be here." Ryan looked at Jack, feeling the sincerity in his words. He hadn't faced his pain alone for all this time, and he didn't want to continue doing it alone. That feeling of having a companion by his side made Ryan realize he wasn't alone anymore. "Thank you, Jack," Ryan said, his voice stronger now. "I'm going to join the therapy group. I can't keep living like this. I'll learn to face the memories of Ace because I know that's the only way forward." Jack smiled, his eyes shining with pride. "That's a great decision, Ryan. Facing the past isn't easy, but it will help you find peace within. And Ace will always be with you, not just in memory, but in your heart." Ryan felt a part of him had been set free. He no longer felt afraid to think about the past, about the loss of Ace. Although the pain was still there, Ryan realized he no longer needed to run from it. Facing the past, sharing it, and learning to live with it was the way forward. He decided to join the therapy group at the VA hospital, where other veterans were also seeking healing. It was a big decision, but Ryan knew it was the first step toward continuing his life without being haunted by the past. Ace couldn't come back, but the healing journey would start with accepting that memory, allowing it to be a part of his story rather than a burden. The next day, Ryan went to the VA hospital with Jack. He felt a little nervous, but not as fearful as before. He walked into the therapy room, where other veterans were already seated. Each had their own story, and although no one spoke about it, there was a deep understanding between them. Dr. Linda, the therapist, greeted Ryan with a warm smile. "Hello, Ryan," she said gently. "We're so glad you're joining this therapy group. Today, if you'd like, we can begin by sharing our stories." Ryan looked at Jack, then nodded. He no longer felt guilty or afraid about sharing his story about Ace. "I'm ready," he said, his voice still a bit hesitant, but without the anxiety it once carried. "I'll share." Ryan began to speak about Ace, sharing the memories of their time together, the countless moments Ace had saved his life during the war, and the wordless bond they shared. When he spoke of the battle in Afghanistan, where Ace had sacrificed himself to protect him, he no longer felt weak. Instead, he felt his heart lighten. Finally, Ryan looked at the members of the group, his gaze calmer now, no longer burdened by the invisible scars on his soul. "Ace was the best friend I've ever had. He didn't just save me in battle. He saved me in life after the war, and now I'll live with his memory, not as a burden, but as a part of my life." Dr. Linda and the others in the group smiled. They understood that Ryan had crossed a significant threshold, a door opening to healing. His story wasn't just about loss, it was about friendship, loyalty, and the strength to face pain. Ryan no longer felt afraid to face the past. Each day, he felt stronger, daring to confront the memories of Ace that he had once avoided. Now, Ryan had decided to embrace the mementos Ace had left behind, items that seemed ordinary, but in reality held a deeply moving story of friendship and unconditional loyalty. In his small room, Ryan opened the cabinet where he knew he would find Ace's old belongings. The room wasn't large, but it was filled with memories. Ryan slowly pulled out Ace's training backpack, the gear they had both worn during their training sessions. It was an old combat uniform, faded from use, the seams of the backpack beginning to fray. Every time he looked at these items, Ryan was reminded of the intense training sessions, the times they both sweat and worked side by side. It had been a tough time, but it was also filled with unforgettable moments. Carefully, Ryan opened the backpack, and as if the past itself had guided him, he found an old photo of Ace tucked inside. The picture had faded with time, but still showed Ace in the early days of their combat days. Ace stood next to him, eyes bright, always ready for a command. Every time Ryan looked at this photo, he didn't just see a K9 dog, he saw a true warrior, the companion he trusted more than anyone. Placing the photo down on the table, Ryan continued his search in the cabinet. He pulled out a commemorative certificate, a gift the military had awarded to Ace after completing his duties. It was a certificate recognizing Ace's sacrifice and contribution during the campaigns in Afghanistan. Ryan gazed at the certificate, a feeling he couldn't quite put into words swelling within him. This was recognition for Ace, but for Ryan, it meant more. It was a confirmation that Ace wasn't just a dog, he was an irreplaceable part of his life. These items, though simple, held immense value. Each item Ryan found was a witness to Ace's sacrifice, a testament to the unbreakable bond between the two of them. Holding the backpack, the photo, and the certificate, Ryan felt the flood of memories of Ace come rushing back. He remembered the days spent fighting side by side, the tense moments when they faced danger, and the times Ace had pulled him from the rubble. Those memories made Ryan feel like he was reliving those challenging days once more. One thing Ryan realized as he looked at these items: holding on to these mementos wasn't just a way to remember Ace. It was also a way for him to face the truth that Ace would always be in his heart, a part of him that would never be forgotten. Ryan knew, even though Ace was no longer physically by his side, that the bond between them was eternal. It wasn't about loss. It was about the everlasting friendship Ace had given him. He carefully placed all the items on the table, and his gaze, no longer filled with the pain it once held, softened. There was a strange peace, as if he had finally found a part of himself he had been trying to hide for so long. He knew that, even though Ace was gone, those memories would never fade. And Ryan also understood that in order to heal, he had to continue living with those memories, letting Ace live on in his heart. He took a deep breath, then whispered softly, "Thank you, Ace," as if sending a heartfelt thanks to his companion. These items weren't just keepsakes. They were proof of friendship, loyalty, and sacrifice. Looking at the items in his hands, each piece of Ace's old gear carried an emotional story he could never forget. He remembered Ace's brave moments in the war, the times Ace saved him from rubble, the countless times Ace had warned and protected him from danger without hesitation. Those moments were now memories Ryan would carry with him always, not just because of Ace's sacrifice, but because of the unbreakable friendship they had shared. One memory Ryan would never forget was the bomb explosion in Afghanistan. As the team moved through a dangerous area, the ground suddenly shook, and a bomb went off nearby. Ace and Ryan were very close when the blast occurred. Ryan was thrown backward, a piece of debris hitting his leg. Despite being injured, Ace didn't hesitate. He charged toward Ryan immediately, pulling him out of the danger zone. In that moment, Ryan felt the unshakable courage of Ace, a bravery words couldn't describe. Even with injuries, Ace never gave up, never stopped protecting his partner. "Thank you, Ace," Ryan whispered again, this time as a late tribute. That was the first time in his life Ryan had truly understood what sacrifice meant. Without Ace, Ryan might not have survived. The next memory Ryan recalled was another time when he and Ace were patrolling through a smoke-filled area. The strong winds made the air heavy, and Ryan and Ace were leading the way, entering a dangerous territory they knew could be filled with mines. Suddenly, Ace stopped, his body stiff and alert. Ryan didn't understand why, but instinctively he froze, watching Ace closely. Then, through the thick dust, Ace crouched low, ready to protect. Ryan saw the buried landmine near their feet. Ace had detected it before Ryan could. Without Ace, they might have lost their lives in an instant. Ace's quick and decisive actions saved them both. This time, Ryan didn't just feel saved by a dog. He felt saved by a true friend, a companion who saved him not just with strength, but with intuition and unwavering loyalty. In other moments when Ryan was ambushed by hidden gunmen, Ace was always the one who charged in first to protect him. He never hesitated, always knowing when to act and always following orders quickly and accurately. Ryan would never forget the times he and Ace sat down after a battle, exhausted, but relieved. Ace would lie beside him, like a true friend, silent, just there, a loyal companion. As Ryan sat with Ace's memories in his hands, he realized that facing these memories was his way of honoring not just the sacrifices of Ace, but the enduring bond they had shared. Ace was no longer physically with him, but Ryan knew his friend would always be there, not as a burden, but as a part of his story, one that would forever shape who he was. Ryan looked at the mementos he had just found, and in that moment, he realized that Ace wasn't just a work companion. Ace had become an irreplaceable part of his life. Ryan had once thought he could never continue without Ace by his side, but now he understood that those memories, those keepsakes, would help him move forward, living with pride for everything Ace had done for him. "Ace, I'll never forget you," Ryan whispered, his gaze softening as though he were seeing his old friend one last time. "Thank you for everything you've done. You're a part of me, and you will always be in my heart." With these keepsakes, Ryan no longer felt the loss. These items were no longer just old belongings. They were living stories of the challenges he and Ace had overcome together. Without these mementos, the memories of Ace would have remained locked away in the dark corners of his heart, unprocessed and impossible to accept. Ryan sat down, gripping the items he had just uncovered: Ace's training gear, the old photo, and the commemorative certificate. Each of these objects was a piece of the puzzle that was his life, a life he couldn't forget, couldn't let go of. The heaviness in his heart slowly began to lift as he accepted that these memories were an important part of him. He no longer felt the pain the way he once did. Instead, these keepsakes had become reminders of unconditional friendship, of the sacrifice Ace had made for him. They were priceless gifts Ace had left behind, and Ryan would never forget them. A sense of relief spread through Ryan. He realized that facing the past and accepting Ace's sacrifice wasn't something to fear. On the contrary, it was the only way he could move forward without letting the pain control him. The memories of Ace were no longer a burden. They didn't make him feel guilty or painful whenever he recalled them. Instead, each memory of Ace was now a part of his life, a piece of moments he would forever cherish. Ace wasn't just a dog. He was a loyal companion, someone who had helped him through challenges that no one else could understand. Ace lived like a warrior, Ryan told himself, his eyes fixed on the old items. And I'll live like a warrior, carrying Ace's memory without letting it make me weak. Ryan felt ready. He no longer feared facing the past, nor did he feel the need to hide those memories. The memories of Ace would always live in his heart, but he wouldn't let them become a burden anymore. He would live with them as part of his life, not as something to be hidden away. He decided he would no longer keep it all inside. Ace did everything he could. Now I'll do everything I can. He looked at the items once more, then lifted his eyes to Lulu, the loyal companion who had been by his side throughout this entire journey. Lulu looked back at him, her gaze full of understanding, without needing to say a word. Ryan felt a warmth in his chest, realizing that even though Ace was gone, the love and loyalty Ace had shown would live on forever. Inside him, along with Lulu, his new companion always ready to share the burdens he carried in his heart. A while later, Ryan stood up, gently placing Ace's keepsakes into a neat box. He looked around the room, filled with memories. For the first time in many years, Ryan didn't feel alone. These keepsakes were no longer meaningless objects. They were vivid memories, part of his journey, and he knew that, in order to heal, he couldn't keep hiding these memories anymore. "Thank you, Ace," Ryan whispered, softly patting Lulu. "Thank you for everything you did. I won't let Ace become a burden anymore. I'll live with these memories as part of me." Jack stood quietly at the door, watching. He didn't say anything, but when he saw the calmness in Ryan's eyes, he knew this was an important step. Ryan wasn't the same anymore. He no longer carried the tension or avoided facing the past. He was ready to share his pain, and Lulu's presence during every therapy session had become an essential part of the healing process. Lulu, the canine Ryan trusted, had always been the companion by his side. She wasn't just a tool in his work, but a loyal friend who had been there with him through the hardest moments. Though Ryan didn't speak it, every time he looked into Lulu's understanding eyes, he felt a comfort that words could never express. During the therapy sessions, Ryan began to realize how essential Lulu's presence was. Lulu wasn't just a companion in his work. She had been with him through everything. In previous sessions, when Ryan attended therapy without Lulu, he felt lonely and shy. But this time, with Lulu beside him, everything felt a little easier. Ryan began to open up more. During the therapy sessions, he no longer kept his emotions hidden. He shared about Ace, the painful memories, but also the deep appreciation. And there, always beside him, was Lulu, quietly sitting by his side, her eyes always watching him with deep concern. One day, during a special therapy session, Ryan sat across from Dr. Linda, but instead of sitting alone, Lulu sat beside him, quietly and patiently, as though knowing this was an important moment. Ryan looked at Lulu, then over to Dr. Linda, and began to share about Ace. "Ace and I went through so many battles together," Ryan said, his voice soft but filled with emotion. "Every time I was in danger, he was there with me, always ready to protect. But when he sacrificed himself, I didn't know what to do. Ace wasn't just a dog, he was the only friend I had in the war. And when he was gone, I didn't know how to keep going." Throughout the session, Lulu remained by Ryan's side, unmoving, just listening to every word he spoke. Ryan felt the peace that Lulu brought. Even without saying anything, Lulu seemed to be there to support him, without needing any encouragement. For Ryan, Lulu's presence was an essential part of this healing journey. He no longer felt alone during the conversations, no longer felt like his pain was a burden. Ryan looked at Lulu, and for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel as if the weight of his grief was too much to bear. With Lulu beside him, he knew he had the strength to face the memories, the love, and the pain that had once held him back. After the therapy session, Dr. Linda spoke softly. "Ryan, I can see that you did very well today. Sharing about Ace isn't easy, but it's an important step. And having Lulu by your side has helped a lot. I believe having a companion like Lulu is essential in this process." Ryan looked at Lulu with eyes full of gratitude. "Thank you," Ryan whispered, as if speaking directly to Lulu, his voice filled with a deep appreciation. "You've been by my side through all these years. You're not just a work companion, but a loyal friend, always helping me through the tough moments." Lulu's eyes shone with understanding. Ryan felt the empathy in her gaze. He didn't need to say anything more, because everything was clear in his heart. He realized that Lulu was not just a service dog, but a true friend, one who had helped him find trust in himself again. But today, despite Lulu's presence, Ryan still felt heavy inside. He walked into the therapy room where the group members were already seated, but his mind was still spinning with memories of Ace. The memories of his fallen companion, the battles he and Ace had faced together, now felt like a burden he couldn't release. Throughout the session, Ryan remained silent. He didn't speak, didn't engage in any of the conversations. Dr. Linda and the other members' questions seemed to pass by him, unable to reach him. Every time Dr. Linda asked about his emotions, Ryan only responded briefly, not wanting to talk about Ace. He didn't want to confront those painful memories again. Lulu, sensing the shift in Ryan, never left his side. She sat next to him, her eyes focused on him, as if understanding that he needed a little comfort. Suddenly, Lulu stood up, moving toward Ryan silently. She placed her head gently on his shoulder, offering what felt like a quiet embrace. The warmth of Lulu's body made Ryan feel an unexpected calm wash over him. Ryan didn't say a word, but he felt the special connection between them. Lulu didn't need to do anything else but be there, sharing in his sorrow that he couldn't put into words. Lulu's presence allowed him to relax, to feel, for the first time in many days, that he could breathe again. He smiled softly, a smile full of appreciation. "Thank you, Lulu," Ryan whispered, gently stroking her smooth coat. "You understand me more than I thought." Lulu remained still, her head resting lightly on Ryan's shoulder, as if she understood that what he needed wasn't comforting words or advice, but simply her presence, the companionship she had always given him. The memories of Ace were still in Ryan's mind, but Lulu helped him realize that he didn't have to carry that pain alone anymore. Lulu was helping him face the past without fear or guilt. The silence between them stretched on. No one speaking. Just Ryan and Lulu sharing a quiet moment where he no longer felt alone in his sorrow. Ryan felt the friendship, the unconditional love that Lulu had for him. In that moment, Ryan knew that the healing journey wouldn't be easy, but he wouldn't have to walk it alone. "Thank you, Lulu," Ryan said, his voice soft but filled with gratitude. "You're such an important part of this journey, and I know with you by my side, I won't have to face these memories alone anymore." Lulu gently wagged her tail, but didn't move from Ryan's shoulder. Ryan felt like part of his pain had been shared, like a weight had been lifted from him. It was an unfamiliar but deeply comforting sensation. He no longer had to carry the pain alone. Lulu's presence wasn't just about companionship in work. It was a silent sharing, an unspoken comfort only true friendship could offer. Lulu wasn't just a canine trained for work. She wasn't just a tool for tasks, but a part of Ryan's life, a loyal friend who understood him even when he couldn't express himself in words. Every gesture from Lulu wasn't just a trained reaction. It was a display of friendship and unwavering loyalty. One late afternoon, after the therapy session, Ryan and Lulu took a walk through the park near the VA hospital. The surroundings were peaceful, with only the sound of their footsteps and the rustling of leaves in the wind. Lulu walked beside Ryan, maintaining a respectful distance, her bright eyes scanning the surroundings. But when Ryan stopped, Lulu stopped too, looking at him. No command was given, yet Lulu understood that he needed a quiet moment. Ryan felt a special connection between them, an understanding that didn't need words. "Thank you," Ryan whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You don't know, but your presence has helped me get through so much. You're not just my dog, you're a true companion." Lulu turned her head to look at Ryan, her brown eyes never leaving his, filled with understanding. Ryan felt the love and unconditional loyalty that Lulu had for him. It wasn't just following commands. It was the deep empathy she had for him, a friendship that words couldn't capture. Every time Lulu looked at him, every movement she made carried a message. "I will always be here with you." Lulu's empathy wasn't always displayed through clear actions. It could be as simple as a glance, a gentle wag of her tail when Ryan felt tired or anxious. Sometimes it was just her presence, standing still beside him, as if saying, "I'm here, and I will never leave you." Once, as Ryan sat deep in thought in the therapy room, his eyes fixed on the picture of Ace he always kept by his side, Lulu sat quietly beside him. She didn't paw at him or do anything else, but Ryan could feel the sadness emanating from him. Suddenly, Lulu stood and walked over to Ryan, gently resting her head on his lap. Ryan looked down and softly stroked her head. This wasn't a trained action. It was a special connection, one only true friends could understand. "Thank you, Lulu," Ryan sighed, his voice heavy with emotion. "You know, I feel Ace here with me, somehow, because of you. You're not just a work companion. You're the friend who helped me survive this pain." Lulu gently wagged her tail, looking at Ryan with deep attention, as if to say she understood. Ryan realized that even without Ace, Lulu's presence had taught him that love and loyalty never truly leave, even when the one you love is gone. Canine, companion by his side, but a true friend who had been with him every step of the way. Lulu's presence, her unwavering loyalty, and the quiet comfort she offered had become a vital part of his healing journey. Each therapy session, with Lulu at his side, made the heavy burden of his memories more manageable, the past less daunting, and his steps forward a little steadier. "Lulu isn't just a dog," Ryan continued, his voice steady yet emotional. "She's the only friend I can trust right now. In therapy, when I feel too exhausted, too burdened by the memories, Lulu is the one who makes me feel safe. She doesn't need to say a word. Just sitting next to me, I feel peace." Dr. Linda smiled and nodded, clearly understanding how vital Lulu's presence was to Ryan. Lulu is an indispensable part of your therapy journey. The sense of safety she brings helps you open up and start facing your pain. Ryan sat in silence for a moment, feeling as though Dr. Linda's words had touched a truth deep within him. In the past, he could never sit still or speak about the emotions he had kept hidden. But now, with Lulu by his side, everything felt easier. That sensation was strange, but also incredibly relieving. He no longer feared facing the past. Lulu wasn't just a dog. She was a friend who had helped him realize that facing the pain was the only way to heal. During another therapy session, after the group had begun sharing their stories, Ryan felt he was ready to share his own buried emotions. But this time, unlike before, he felt an unusual calm. Lulu sat beside him, gently placing her head on his hand, as if reminding him that he wasn't alone. When it was his turn to speak, Ryan looked at Lulu and said, "I feel like Lulu has helped me so much during these therapy sessions. She doesn't need to say anything, but just being here with me is enough. When I feel tired, when memories of Ace flood back, Lulu is always by my side, always offering comfort without words. That feeling has really helped me a lot." It wasn't just an acknowledgement of Lulu, but a clear recognition of her role in Ryan's healing journey. As Ryan looked at Lulu, he felt he didn't just have a dog by his side, but a true friend. Someone who had stood by him through the toughest times. Someone who had helped him navigate the pain that once seemed insurmountable. And with Lulu's presence, Ryan realized that he didn't have to walk this road alone anymore. Ryan realized that he no longer carried the weight of his memories alone. His journey of healing, although still ongoing, had shifted. Lulu, his new companion, had become an irreplaceable part of his life. While Ace had once been his anchor, Lulu had now stepped into that role, offering comfort, understanding, and unwavering loyalty. In the next therapy session, Ryan began to open up more, no longer hesitant to share the deep memories of Ace. He recalled the battles fought together, the tense moments when only their companionship had seen them through. These weren't just images in his mind, but integral parts of his life, memories he had kept buried for so long. One morning in the therapy room, as everyone began to share their stories, Ryan spoke about the first mission he and Ace had been assigned to in the battlefield. He remembered the exact moment when they entered a section under attack, and only Ace could sense the looming danger. "Ace saved me countless times in the battlefield. One time, when our team was ambushed, I was trapped in the rubble. Ace didn't hesitate. He rushed in, protecting me from the bullets. All I could do was hold on to him, and he got me to safety." Ryan's voice trembled as he spoke, but he didn't stop. He knew sharing Ace's story was the only way to face those painful memories. Ryan could never forget the moments he and Ace had faced life and death together. He recalled the time when Ace discovered a buried landmine. The team was moving through a dangerous area when Ace suddenly stopped. Ryan didn't react in time, but Ace crouched low, signaling the imminent danger. Ace was the only one who detected the threat before I could even react. He always knew how to protect me, even when I couldn't sense the danger. The memories of those moments were overwhelming, but it was the final memory that hurt the most. The moment Ace sacrificed himself to protect him. When the bomb exploded, I saw Ace leap in front of me, shielding me from the blast. He didn't hesitate for a second. And when the bomb went off, I knew I'd never see Ace again. Ryan's words began to falter, his voice cracking as tears welled up in his eyes. The pain of losing Ace, the sacrifice he made, weighed heavily on him. But he also realized that these memories weren't a sign of weakness. They made him stronger. They reminded him of what Ace had done for him, and that was a bond that would never be broken. Throughout the session, Lulu stayed by Ryan's side, quiet, but her presence made everything feel lighter. Each time Ryan spoke about Ace, Lulu would nudge him, gently resting her head on his lap, as if to say, "I'm here, I understand, and I'm not going anywhere." Ryan looked down at Lulu, and in that moment he realized that even though Ace was gone, he no longer felt alone. Lulu's companionship wasn't just about helping him in his work, it was a vital part of his healing journey. Lulu wasn't just a service dog, she was a friend who helped him through the pain, just as Ace had done in the past. For the first time in a long while, Ryan felt like he could breathe a little easier. The memories of Ace no longer haunted him. Instead, they became moments of respect and gratitude. He no longer felt trapped by his past. With Lulu by his side, he had a chance to move forward, not without the pain, but with the strength to carry it and honor it. Ryan no longer felt guilt when he thought about Ace's sacrifice. Instead, he felt pride. He reminded himself, "Ace will always be a part of me, and I will live as he lived, strong, loyal, and never giving up." Lulu had become an irreplaceable part of his healing process, not just a work companion, but a priceless source of encouragement that helped him keep moving forward. Each therapy session, Ryan felt Lulu grow even closer to him. She was no longer just a dog, but a deeply understanding companion who had helped him face the memories of Ace without fear or guilt. Sharing about Ace in therapy no longer felt heavy. Instead, Ryan realized that Lulu's presence was what had helped him open up, not only to the group, but also to himself. One day in therapy, Ryan sat facing the group, feeling lighter than before. Lulu sat beside him, her bright eyes watching him with empathy. Ryan no longer felt guilt when talking about Ace. He didn't feel regret or fear when remembering Ace's final moments. He knew that Ace's sacrifice was a profound act that would always remain in his memory. "Thank you, Lulu," Ryan whispered as he looked into her eyes, his gaze full of deep gratitude. "You've helped me understand that I don't have to face this pain alone. You're my companion not just at work, but in life. Thank you for always being by my side." Lulu gently wagged her tail, her eyes never leaving Ryan, as if understanding everything he had just said. Ryan smiled and gently stroked Lulu's smooth coat. Lulu didn't need to say anything, but her actions were enough for Ryan to feel the comfort he had long been searching for. Lulu wasn't just a canine companion, she was a vital part of his healing journey. During each therapy session, Lulu remained Ryan's loyal friend, helping him feel safe and stronger every time he faced the past. When Ryan felt exhausted, when the memories of Ace rushed back, Lulu would sit beside him in silence, but with a profound understanding. Her eyes seemed to say, "You're not alone. I'm here." And that was what Ryan needed the most at that moment: comfort, understanding, without the need for words. "You help me face the memories I've tried to bury," Ryan said, his eyes becoming misty. "Ace wasn't just a companion, he was a part of my life. But I know now that I need to live with those memories, not let them torment me. And thanks to you, I can do that." Every time Ryan spoke about Ace, he no longer felt guilt or regret. He no longer thought he hadn't done enough to save Ace. Instead, he understood that Ace had sacrificed for him out of friendship and loyalty. And now, Lulu was the one continuing that legacy, helping Ryan overcome his pain and find peace within himself. In the quiet moments, Ryan knew that even though Ace was gone, Lulu would always be by his side. It was Lulu's love and loyalty that helped him realize that friendship and loyalty didn't only exist in those who had sacrificed. Lulu wasn't just a canine companion, she was the friend who would help him live on, overcoming life's challenges, just like Ace had done before. Ryan had found the strength to face his past and the painful memories of Ace. He no longer felt alone, and he knew that even without Ace, the friendship and support that Lulu provided were vital for him to keep moving forward. Today, Ryan had decided he was ready to share his story with the therapy group. This was a crucial decision, not only because it meant confronting the memories of Ace, but also because he realized he couldn't keep hiding his pain any longer. In recent days, he had learned how to open up, thanks to Lulu's presence and the therapy sessions he'd attended. He had learned to accept the past, and now it was time to share his pain in order to heal. As he walked into the therapy room, Ryan felt a clear shift inside him. In the past, he had felt hesitant and afraid whenever asked about Ace, but today he didn't feel that tension. Lulu walked beside him, accompanying him on this journey. Ryan felt comforted by her presence, knowing that nothing could make him feel judged or alone. As the others in the group began sharing their stories, Ryan realized that he was ready. Dr. Linda, the group leader, spoke the first words. "Today, if you'd like, we can begin sharing our stories." Ryan didn't rush, but he felt more grounded than ever. After a few moments of silence, he looked at Lulu, then turned to the group. "You all probably know I'm not someone who opens up easily," Ryan began, his voice soft yet determined. "But today, I want to share about my special friend, Ace." Ryan couldn't help but choke up when he said Ace's name. He started talking about the early days when he first met Ace, the first time Ace entered his life. "The first time I met Ace, he was just a little puppy, but from that moment I knew he would be an incredible companion. We've been through so much together, in war and in the peaceful days. Ace wasn't just a K9, he was a warrior. He saved my life more times than I can count." Ryan paused, his eyes clouded with painful memories, but he pushed forward. "There was this one time we were ambushed. I got trapped in the rubble. Ace didn't hesitate. He rushed in to save me, thinking only of me, not his own safety. He was the only one who got me out of there alive." Lulu sat quietly beside Ryan, her eyes full of understanding and encouragement. Every time Ryan spoke of those moments, Lulu gently wagged her tail, as if to say, "I understand, and I'm here with you." As Ryan shared more memories of Ace, recalling the times Ace had saved him from danger, he felt the support from the therapy group. The members listened intently, offering no judgment, no interruptions. There was only the silence of shared empathy, a kind of connection that Ryan hadn't realized he needed until now. He began to feel lighter, his heart opening up. And when Ace sacrificed himself... Ryan paused, unable to hold back the tears. He took a deep breath before continuing. "At that moment, I couldn't save him. He jumped between me and the bomb, and when he died, I didn't know what to do. But now I understand he did everything he could. He sacrificed himself for me, and I will always remember him." Ryan's voice caught, but this time he didn't feel guilt or regret. He felt like he had shared a large part of his heart, and now he didn't feel as heavy as before. The support from Lulu and the therapy group made Ryan realize that he didn't have to carry these memories alone anymore. Dr. Linda looked at Ryan and nodded gently. "Thank you, Ryan, for sharing your story. That's the first step in your healing journey, and I believe that sharing it will help you move forward." Ryan sat in silence for a moment, feeling a release in his heart that he'd never felt before. Ace, the memories of fighting side by side, no longer felt like something too heavy to bear. Sharing Ace's story with the group didn't just help him release some of the weight, it made him feel understood, like never before. As Ryan looked around the group, he realized that he wasn't alone anymore. The people around him, despite having their own stories, had all experienced loss and pain. They each carried a part of their story that no longer needed to be hidden. And as Ryan shared Ace's story, he felt a real connection to those around him. "Thank you, Lulu," Ryan whispered, looking at his K9 companion. Lulu sat quietly, her eyes never leaving Ryan, as if she understood that now he was ready to accept support from others beyond just her. The members of the group continued to listen attentively. Dr. Linda smiled at him, her eyes full of encouragement. "Ryan, Your story is powerful. I can feel the pain, but also the pride in what you've shared. You're not just healing yourself, you're healing those around you, too." Ryan looked at Dr. Linda and the group members. Each of them had their own story, but no one looked at him with pity. The stories they shared were not just about empathy, but about a reminder that even though pain can be overwhelming, sharing it helps us no longer feel alone. Ryan realized that whether it was him, Lulu, or the others in the therapy group, we were all part of a collective healing journey. One member of the group, Michael, a veteran with deep scars that hadn't yet healed, spoke after Ryan finished. "I understand that feeling, Ryan," Michael said, his voice gentle but strong. "Loss is a part of us, but we don't have to carry it alone. Each time we share, each time we speak out, we allow ourselves to heal." Michael's words were like a light breaking through the darkness, and Ryan felt a deep connection with the group. He no longer felt alone in his pain. Each person had their own struggles, but now they could see each other's pain not as a burden, but as part of the healing process. Ryan continued, his voice softer, no longer as tense as before. "Maybe I've been hiding this for too long. I thought not talking about it would make me stronger. But now I understand. Sharing and letting others understand me is the only way to heal." Lulu sat beside him, listening quietly as Ryan spoke. He looked down at her, and in that moment he realized that Lulu had helped him find peace again. It wasn't the words from anyone else, but Lulu's silent presence and loyalty that had helped him face everything. Lulu didn't need to say anything. She just sat there, understanding him in a way no one else could. And in that quiet moment, Ryan knew that with Lulu by his side, he wasn't alone anymore. He could face the memories, face the pain, and keep going. This wasn't just about the past. It was about learning to live with it, to accept it, and to let it be a part of his journey instead of letting it define him. Ryan's heart swelled with gratitude as he sat quietly, feeling the weight of everything he had just shared. Lulu, his constant companion, sat beside him, offering silent support in a way words never could. She didn't need to speak. The steady presence of her eyes said it all. With every look, Ryan felt a deep understanding and unconditional love from her that he didn't even need to ask for. "Thank you, everyone," Ryan said, his voice thick with emotion. "I've never felt less alone than I do today. Thank you, Lulu, for being here with me, and thank you to the group for letting me share my story." Dr. Linda smiled and nodded. "We're so glad you chose to share your story, Ryan. Every step you take is not just a step forward for you, but for all of us. You're healing yourself, and you're helping those of us in this group heal too." Ryan felt a huge release, something that had been stuck in him for so long. The days of hiding his pain no longer drained him. The memories of Ace were no longer a burden. They were a part of him, and Lulu had helped him see that sharing was an essential part of healing. He wasn't alone anymore in this journey. He felt proud. Ace had sacrificed for him, and that was an integral part of the priceless bond they shared. The story of Ace wasn't a painful memory, it was a vital part of Ryan's life. He began to realize that facing the past wasn't about burying the pain, but about transforming it into motivation to move forward. Ryan no longer felt guilty or regretful when thinking about Ace. Instead, he felt deep gratitude. Ace was a friend, a warrior, and an important part of everything Ryan had become. He realized that healing meant learning to share, learning to let those memories make him stronger, not weaker. One afternoon in the therapy room, as everyone in the group shared their stories, Ryan didn't feel the old hesitation or fear. He glanced at Lulu, who sat beside him, her warm eyes gazing at him as if saying, "I'm here. Share it all. There's nothing to hide." Ryan took a deep breath, and this time all he felt was calm. He spoke more honestly, his voice steady. "I used to think that if I kept this pain hidden, I would become stronger. But now I understand, sharing doesn't make me weak. We have to face the past to truly live with ourselves. Ace isn't a loss. Ace is a part of me. He will always live on inside me. Dr. Linda smiled, her eyes full of empathy and encouragement. That's right, Ryan. When you face the past, you not only free yourself from its weight, but also learn to love those memories instead of avoiding them. Ryan's gaze softened as he looked at Lulu. And thanks to Lulu, I've come to understand this, he continued, his voice full of gratitude. She's always been here with me. When I felt tired, when I didn't want to face the truth, Lulu was the friend who didn't say a word, but quietly stayed by my side, helping me get through each day. Lulu didn't move, just gently wagged her tail, her eyes still focused on Ryan, as if to say, I understand, and I will never leave you. The presence of Lulu had cleared everything up for Ryan. Ryan's words echoed through the room, his voice steady but full of emotion. As he spoke about Ace, something inside him shifted. His heart, once heavy with guilt and regret, now felt lighter. The weight of years spent hiding his pain was slowly lifting, replaced by a quiet strength. The group listened in silence, their presence a constant reminder that he wasn't alone anymore. Ace wasn't just a dog, Ryan continued, his voice gaining confidence. He was my partner, a warrior, and he saved me more times than I can count. I used to think I couldn't go on without him, but now I know. I'll carry his memory with me forever. The room was filled with a collective understanding. Each person in the group knew the weight of loss. Some had lost comrades, others, parts of themselves. But today, Ryan wasn't just sharing his grief. He was sharing his healing. Lulu sat quietly at his side, her gaze soft but steady, as if silently reminding him that she was there, as constant as Ace had been. Her presence was a balm, soothing the raw edges of Ryan's emotions. And as he spoke, Ryan realized that Lulu wasn't just a dog to him, she was his companion, his partner in this new chapter of life. Dr. Linda smiled warmly at Ryan, her voice gentle but filled with admiration. Thank you, Ryan. What you've done today is a huge step. Sharing your story is not just about healing for you, it's healing for all of us. We all carry pieces of our past, but it's in sharing them that we make peace with them. Ryan nodded, his eyes shifting between the group and Lulu. He no longer felt the fear he once did when he thought about Ace. There was no longer a need to bury his memories or his pain. Instead, he was learning to accept them as part of who he was, and in doing so, he was starting to feel whole again. Ace may not be here anymore, Ryan continued, his voice stronger now, but I'll never forget what he taught me. The courage, the loyalty, he gave me a second chance at life. And now it's my turn to live fully, without shame, without guilt. Lulu gave a small, comforting whine, as if affirming Ryan's words. He reached down to scratch behind her ears, the simple gesture reminding him that, while Ace had been his past, Lulu was his present and future. Together they would navigate this journey of healing, side by side. Dr. Linda spoke again, her tone thoughtful. What you're doing, Ryan, is important. You've not only shared your pain, but you've also shown others that it's okay to open up. That's a rare and powerful gift. Ryan's smile was soft but genuine. I couldn't have done it without Lulu, he said, glancing at her with love in his eyes. She's helped me more than I can put into words. In that moment, Ryan realized that sharing his story wasn't just about releasing pain. It was about embracing the love, loyalty, and bravery that Ace had left behind. And, with Lulu by his side, he was ready to continue moving forward, carrying the lessons and memories of his past, but no longer letting them control his future. Ryan sat quietly, absorbing the weight of Dr. Linda's words. The warmth in her gaze, combined with the unspoken understanding from the group, filled him with a sense of belonging. He had been carrying his memories of Ace alone for so long, But now, those stories no longer felt like burdens. They were integral to him, cherished pieces of his journey. As the therapy session ended, Ryan felt an unusual peace wash over him. It was as though a wall had been lifted, allowing him to breathe a little easier. He knew his healing was far from over, but today,